Hi everyone, Brad here. Today I'll be showing how connections can be made to target systems using CyberArk Privilege Cloud. And this video will focus on how end users can connect to target systems. What I'm about to show you does not include all use cases of what users can achieve with CyberArk Privilege Cloud, but I picked some of the most popular use cases on how connections can be made. Some of the use cases that I'm about to show you do require additional configuration outside of the defaults in CyberArk Privilege Cloud. And you can refer to the video notes for additional information and documentation links. And here's a list of use cases I'll be demonstrating in this video. I'll put this information in the video notes below, along with the timestamp of when I'm demonstrating the use case. With that said, I'll switch over to the lab now and make some connections. In the lab, I've logged into Privilege Cloud as John, and I'll be using this john.admin account to connect to a target. I'll press connect here, and I'll turn off the in-browser mode. I'll show you that shortly. And we'll connect to this target of win-svr1. I'll press connect. This will download an RDP file that will be pointing at the load balancer, which will then take us to the PSM server. I'll click connect. And here we are on the server. I'm definitely logged in as john.admin and I'm connected to win-svr1. I'll just make this smaller so you can see that separate RDP session. There. I'll just disconnect. I'll make another connection as john.admin to the same target, but this time I'll leave the in-browser mode turned on. And this will open up a new tab, and the HTML5 gateway here will make a connection to the PSM server. The PSM server will then make a connection to the target. When using the HTML5 gateway, you can copy and paste files and copy and paste text. First, I'll copy a file to this machine. And as we can see here, this file has uploaded. And I'll go to the File Explorer on the target. And we can see this redirected drive. And I'll simply copy this and put this on the desktop. If I want to copy and paste text, I can hold down Control, Alt, and Shift. And then I've got this in my clipboard on my local machine. I'll copy this here. And then I can paste this on the target machine. As we can see there. I'll just save this. And if I want to transfer this file back to my local machine, I simply just put this in the download folder here. That will upload it to the target, and then my web browser will download the file. I'll put this on the desk downloads directory of my local machine. This is on my local machine and I've transferred that file. And I'll just clean up this and disconnect. Next, I'll use this account here to connect to a Linux target. I'll click connect. And this time I won't do the in-browser mode and I'll press connect here. This will again download an RDP file and will be connected onto a PSM server, which will then launch PuTTY. It's connected and we can see we're logged in as local admin on this Linux target. I'll just disconnect now by typing in exit. And I'll make another connection. This time I'll use the in-browser mode and press connect. Like before, this will open up the HTML5 gateway. And we're connected. Like in the previous HTML5 session, we can hold Control-Alt-Shift and we can copy and paste text like we did with the Windows connection. I'll type in exit to disconnect. I'll now use this john.admin account and we'll connect on to a Palo Alto firewall in a web session. So I'll click this. And we're going to connect to this address here, which is the firewall in this environment. I'll press connect. And as we can see, the PSM server has launched Chrome and logged on to the Palo Alto firewall in this case. I'll just disconnect this session. We can also connect to a network device using SSH. So in this case, I'll connect to the same firewall, but this time we'll use SSH. And we'll connect to the same firewall and press connect. As we can see, we're logged onto the firewall using SSH. I'll type in exit to disconnect. I'll now use this Volta credential to connect to the Windows target using Secure Infrastructure Access, or SIA. We can do this from the web interface here by clicking on the drop-down menu I've configured and clicking on SIA RDP. That'll bring up this menu here, and I'll connect on to the Windows target again. When I click connect, it will download the RDP file, and this RDP file is pointing at the Secure Infrastructure Access Gateway server, as you can see here. I'll proceed with this by hitting connect. As you can see here, we're connected to the same target. I'll just make this smaller so you can see that there. I'll now disconnect. We can also connect to targets over in Secure Infrastructure Access. I'll go to that now. And here we can use connection guidance to connect to a target. First, I'll use Volta credentials just like we have been before. And we'll connect to a target using john.admin of the address win-svr1 and our target domain of this one here. I'll click on the RDP file here. This will download the RDP file. And Chrome, in my case, will automatically open this. Again, we're connecting to the Secure Infrastructure Access Gateway server. I'll click connect. And we're connected onto the same target. I'll just make this smaller again. And I'll disconnect. I'll now connect to a target using 0 standing privileges. So I'll click this here, and I'm going to connect to the same target. Offline, I've configured a policy and configured the necessary components to allow this to happen. So I'll download the RDP file. I'll press connect here. And what's happening right now, the Secure Infrastructure Access is actually creating a privileged account for this session. Once that's created, Secure Infrastructure Access will log on to the target using those credentials. And when I disconnect, this credential here, or sorry, this account here will be removed. So I'll just open up PowerShell here. And if we type in who am I, it's this temporary local admin called John here. And if I open up computer management and go to local users and groups, then users, and this temporary John account, we can see John is a member of administrators. So I'll log out of this session. And when I log out, this account will be removed. And therefore we end up having 0 privileges standing after the connection has been made. I'll head back to the Privilege Cloud portal. And we can also connect to targets without logging into the web interface. And offline, I've downloaded the community app called PSMClient. This is what it looks like. And if we go to the settings here, you'll need to configure your service URL here. You can click on this button to define your type of environment. In this Privilege Cloud environment, I'm using ISPSS, and this is what my URL looks like. So I'll just save that. And now I'll press sign in. There are many ways you can authenticate. but in my case, I'll just use a passkey. And I'm now logged in as John. We can come up here to favorites and we can see the Windows account that we used before and the Linux account that we saw before. So they're the favorites that I saw in the web portal here. We can do the same thing, such as RDPing to a target. And we can connect to an SSH target, such as this Linux target here. I'll also make a connection to the Palo Alto firewall. As we can see, that's on the Palo Alto firewall web interface. And just to finish that off, I'll connect to the SSH target of the same firewall as well. So this is a good way to keep all your connections in the one application or in the one place, and we can switch between our connections just like that. I'll now disconnect all these sessions and I'll sign out. And I'll close this. We can also connect to targets with CyberArk using a third-party client. In my lab here, I've configured Remote Desktop Manager. And first I'll demonstrate the PSM method. I'll just show you the properties of this one. And we're going to connect to the load balancer of the PSM servers. And this is a username we'll be using. In the authentication tab here, we've got network level authentication turned off. And if we go to the programs tab here, we can see that I've configured this to connect as john.admin to this target server here that we've been using. So I'll just close this and I'll make a connection. I'll go to the next screen. I'll put in my password. And in the next screen here, it's going to ask for my verification code. On this account, I've configured TOTP as the MFA method. So I'll type that in now. And here we're connected to the same target again. I'll just disconnect this. And now I'll look at connecting via secure infrastructure access. And as you can see here, I've got this configured here as the connection string. And if I go to the properties on this one, and we've got the hostname configured here, along with the connection string that you could see before. And if we go to the RD gateway, we need to configure the hostname here along with the gateway access token of secure access. Close this, and we'll make a connection. Put in my password and perform the MFA. We're connected onto the target. I'll disconnect and I'll close Remote Desktop Manager. I'll now demonstrate how we can connect to a Linux target using our local SSH client. First, I'll go to the Secure Infrastructure Access. We'll select SSH here. This time I'll use Vaulted Credentials. And I'm going to connect as local admin to the Linux test server I have. And this will generate the SSH string here. I'll copy this string here, open up Windows Terminal. I'll paste in the string and connect. I'll enter in my password and I'll do my MFA. Once the MFA is completed, we can see that we're connected to the target. This requires a client to be able to SSH to the public URL of your secure infrastructure access SSH URL. I'll type in exit. I'll clear the screen. And now I'll connect to the same SSH target, but this time I'll use the local PSMP server. This is a load balancer of the PSMP servers in this lab. So I'll connect. I'll enter in my password. I'll enter in the code. As we can see, that's connected. Just type in exit to disconnect. I'll switch back to the Privilege Cloud portal, and I'll show you an alternative way we can connect to this Linux target using PSMP, and that's by using the PSM for SSH MFA caching. This feature allows the user to create a temporary SSH key to connect to the PSMP server. I'll just demonstrate that now. So I've entered in a temporary password for the SSH key. I'll click generate. And the system has generated the SSH key. This temporary SSH key is valid for 60 minutes in my case. You can change this to a shorter period of time or longer if that's needed. And there are different types of SSH keys that you can download depending on what SSH client you're using. In my case, I'm using Windows Terminal, so I will use OpenSSH. I'll download this key now. And we'll put this in the downloads folder. And if we go to the downloads folder, I can do a shift right click on this and select copy as path. If I go back to Windows Terminal, this is the string that we used in the previous connection. All we need to do is add an extra switch of -i to provide the path for the SSH key. I'll connect and I'll paste in the temporary password that I created earlier. And we're connected to the target. So in summary, we only needed to provide the temporary password for the SSH key and didn't need to enter in our MFA credentials each time we connect to a target. I'll disconnect from this target. And I'll finish the video here. I hope you've learned something new on how connections can be made to target systems using CyberArk Privilege Cloud. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.